Good afternoon. We are the one thing between you and the gala dinner tonight, which is very exciting that we hold you in complete captivity before you move on to the next. Yeah. I'm going like this. No, I'm just kidding. Got a nap and such. So today we have a very exciting panel here. This is going to be completely candid. This is not pre-planned. I have no notes. It is really speaking from our hearts here to you to try and leave you with some great thoughts about the youth chef program. So there we are. So we have a panel here. We'll all introduce ourselves. I won't do that for you. We're going to speak a little bit about some opportunities and things, especially for the youth within our World Chefs and what you can do and some of the things that might help you on your journey as chefs. So I will pass it on to Flora from the FOA, and we'll each give a little intro of who we are.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Shona. Can everyone hear me when I speak like this, or is it better with the mic? Microphone? Okay. Okay, so first of all, thanks so much. I know you've been through many, many sessions, so we want to keep this light and also interesting for you, interactive, and at the end, we've plenty of time for questions. So start thinking about things you want to ask and feel very free to ask us about anything. So I'm Flora Igo, and I am working in the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. Within that, I work in the Office of Youth and Women, and here I'm leading a youth culture and food heritage program. And as part of that program, we have the World Food Forum Young Chefs Program. That's many, many different names, but basically, World Food Forum Young Chefs Program, you see up there, is training chefs around the world. So we've got 10 different chefs, and they're all being given skills for better culinary practices, for better planet, better diets, and also to use their influence as chefs for sustainable practices. And we actually are really lucky to be joined by our panel today, who all can give a good overview on mentorship, leadership, why it's important to invest, particularly in young chefs. So that's a bit of what we'll talk about today. First, I wanted to introduce the Director of the Office of Youth and Women at the FAO, Kazuki Kitaoka, to share a few words.
Thanks, Flora. And I know that this is towards the gala, so we don't want to keep this too long. But perhaps just 3 words on why it is so important for us in the UN to talk with you, young chefs, when we're talking about the future of our food. Perhaps 3 words before that on what is FAO actually doing. FAO is the standard-setting organization within the United Nations system. It's quite a big agglomeration of different organizations. Perhaps many of you have heard about the Security Council and about the General Assembly in New York and things like that. This is very much the political arm of the United Nations. There is also a standard-setting arm for food and agriculture, and that is the Food and Agriculture Organization. And we are sitting in Rome as headquarter. And what we actually do is when, for instance, you buy ingredients for your kitchen, you see what is in, for instance, in a canned food, how much sodium or how much liquid and so on. These kind of standards, that's something that FAO is doing. Or you're buying fish, and and this fish should be hopefully from a certified fishing company. Now, FAO is giving fishing rights around the world for each quadrant of the oceans. We look at how much fish can actually be fished or taken out of the ocean, so that it is a sustainable fish stock, and we can make sure that there's also fish tomorrow. So these are the kind of standards that FAO is doing, and we are helping in all of over the world, in 193 member states and the European Union, to implement those standards. So that's the core business, basically, that FAO is in. So it is really directly affecting what you are buying and what you're using as ingredients on a daily basis. We are looking at food safety, of course, as well. Just yesterday, we talked with some chefs about cool chains, for instance. Many countries have difficulties with cool chains, in particular when it's very hot. One can't imagine that here in Wales, but perhaps in other parts of the world where you're from, there are major issues with cool chains for meat, for fish, for other ingredients, and so on. So there's a lot of different activities that FAO is doing. And one of the major issues that we identified 5 years ago was generational renewal in the agri-food system. And why am I talking about the agri-food system is because the entire world of food and agriculture is, of course, going beyond the kitchen itself. It includes agriculture, it includes fisheries, but it also includes non-food items like timber, rubber, cotton, and so on. So this system, this agri-food system, including also all of the services, we see aging on an almost daily basis. And we see also that if this degree of aging is continuing, we will probably have a major issue with food security around the world. So this is why our focus on youth, on young people in this agri-food system is such an important program that we have created 5 years ago. And of course, the support to young chefs like yourself is a very important anchor point here, as you're really facing on one side the producers and on the other side the consumers. You're actually at the pulse of what people eat, and people also trust you. You're putting food on people's plates and they eat it without asking, is this safe? So you have an extremely important role here to play, and that is why we have this program, the Young Chefs program, looking at how with your profession, with your professional excellence, you can also have influence. Influence in your communities, influence with your customers, influence in your teams, influence perhaps also with your friends or in your cities and so on. And that's where I would like to invite you as well to get in contact if there is a youth chapter that we have been opening actually around the world in every country almost. If there is a youth chapter in your country, get in contact with them. These people are all interested in food. They may come from different professions. Some of them are researchers, some others may be farmers, some others may be interested in fishing. But they're all important contributors to youth engagement in this agri-food system. And I'm sure many of them would be very interested in talking to you, hearing your experience as a young chef in this industry, and perhaps help you build projects and programs that you may want to do at your community level, and in your kitchen, in your city, wherever you're sitting. And with that, back to you, Flora. And thanks again. Looking forward to the discussion.
Thanks.
Okay, so you've heard a little bit about the Young Chefs program, and today we're going to look in terms of mentorship, helping young chefs, and with our panelists' experience, seeing how that's done in different ways. So I think you're familiar with Shona and Sean. So Sean's culinary director and culinary program leader at BHMS in Lucerne, Switzerland. Shona, you're a culinary educator and sustainability advocate and mentor, as well as chair of Feed the Planet Sustainability and Inclusivity Committee. And Grace-Anne Lacombe, which you may not be as familiar with, but you might have seen her session yesterday. Gracian is a gastronomist, food journalist, and project manager, and dedicated to building a more sustainable and inclusive global food future. She was working on a European-funded project, Life Climate Smart Chefs, in the past, and now all three of our panelists are actually working on the EU Food Choices for Life project. So definitely we can talk about that a bit today as well. But first, I wanted to go into a first question. I have this for Sean, but feel free to jump in with your thoughts as well, because it's looking at culinary education. And I've seen that you've worked across 21 different countries, over 22 years in culinary education. And thinking about the working in formal education, formal culinary education, I was interested to see how this work differs from, not how it differs, but how the chefs' work differs when, say, in the Young Chefs program, they're doing a community project that is informal, and maybe how the process might look for a chef.
Yeah, hi everyone. Pleasure to be here again, and I know we're all a bit fatigued, but at the end is now. We saved the best to the last, right? Yeah. Oh, there we are as well. I mean, ultimately, the task, I'm lucky enough to be involved in this project. I actually wanted to always be involved with the young chefs, I'm being honest. I work in a school. I've been training people for over 22 years, but even when I was working in hospitality, I was working with apprentices in the kitchen, and I always was concerned with developing young people's talents and helping where possible. And so I'm in the education committee for advising on accreditations for World Chefs, but I'm happy that I'm involved with the World Chefs youth section through the FAO on this particular project. And I was lucky enough to be selected as a mentor for my mentee, and we were just picked at random together. And it seems I got lucky. My mentee is extremely, I think they're all very good, to be honest, but my mentee is extremely honest, hardworking, and just on it. And it's just such a breath of fresh air to see that next generation of people who are, like yourselves, just kind of really involved in what we do, because what we do is not a job, what we do is a lifestyle, right? And you're just embarking on that journey. And I always people keep saying to me, would you, if you were to do it all again, would you do it all? Absolutely. Absolutely. I know wealth, what is wealth? I didn't join this industry to be wealthy, or, I am wealthy, actually. We come with nothing, we leave with nothing. Anything happens in the middle is just fun. And if you've got to enjoy everything you do in life. And if you don't enjoy it, change it. And I would never change this, because I enjoy every day being in this industry. And I think that's kind of what I wanted to mention as well. And, you say there's some real good advantages to being in industry, right? I mean, we get to come to congresses, we get to be involved, we get to collaborate, we get to make friends from around the world, friends for life. And when I was doing this when I was younger, it was kind of, we had to write a letter to each other. Now we've got social media and smartphones and things, and we can communicate within seconds. So it's such a breath of fresh air as well to have those possibilities. And I mentioned about AI and stuff. It's kind of the next revelation in our industry, right? It's going to really help us, because I hate doing food costing. I hate making the allergen sheets. And they can do that all in AI. Yes, we need to check it, but the hard work can be done for us. And they make it look pretty, which is nice. Almost as pretty as the colors that we have for the FAO. I love the color schemes, by the way. So I think this project itself, it asks you to sort of not be young chefs in a classroom or in a kitchen. It kind of, and I made some notes because I've got a memory like a sieve. It kind of asks you to sort of think beyond being in the kitchen. It makes you want to be collaborators. It makes you want to be communicators. It makes you want to engage with people, engage with heritage, engage with society, engage with our industry, engage with the topic, and come up with sustainable solutions in the environment in which you find yourself, and make a difference. And I think that's kind of what this project is about. And that's what I'm seeing as it's developing, because I kind of, with a limited amount of research, accepted the invitation to join as the mentor. And then as I got into it, I was thinking that this is actually quite cool. And I'm very happy that we're able to be here and share this with you. Because I think we'll be inundated with the next generation or the next year for applications. You might need about 50 mentors, which is okay. We'll help out World Chefs for sure. Those people, we have enough. But yeah, so and we're also trying to engage not just your ability in food and cookery, but the cognitive skills. And equally, we're trying to engage the subconscious consciousness of use of what I would like to integrate into my education, which is the inner development goals. So you mentioned about the UN and the UN sustainable goals. We also have the inner development goals, the ideas of being and self and reflection. Stuff we do in pedagogy as well, that we're kind of integrating to understand why we need to achieve these goals. And it's kind of the step before the sustainable goals in my eyes, if you like. And I try to incorporate that sort of need for being part of the project for then successful completion of the project.
Thank you, Sean. That's great to hear. It's good also for me that live feedback. No, thank you. So thinking about the program itself, it's training 10 chefs, and the aim is that their solutions and their projects can be scaled. But at the moment, we are focusing on 10 chefs. And I know with Feed the Planet, I think you've trained 14,000 chefs.
Almost
so far.
17,000
17.
now, yeah. Sorry.
So I wanted to ask what, there's pros and cons of both, and ultimately anything good should be scaled, right? But maybe you can give us insight on maybe some of the differences and how this close mentorship can also be a benefit in some ways.
All right, so I can't say I've taught 17,000, that would be terrible to say. We've educated 17,000 people, and the great part about doing large scale is that you get to hit a lot of people with the same information that might not have access to it. That's the big thing. Like, you have people in places that don't have culinary schools or that don't have the understanding or framework for sustainability. They don't even recycle in some places. So they get this information and they become ambassadors. And that's the great part about doing it big. Now, doing it small, like 10 people, it's so nice because you get to really focus on how they grow, what their strengths are. It's like having your own group within a small kitchen. My favorite part about being in a kitchen is checking on you. You like to learn a new skill. You like to have a mentor beside you. You like to tell me about what you're doing with your activities out of work. You want to always know a little bit more about the costing. And I would go through my kitchen, and because you're a small group, I can grow and challenge you and have you become the better you without making it in broad strokes. When you do in a big group, I have to do something that's going to be okay for everyone, and all learners will understand. But I know you learn by doing. You stand beside me, you're going to do it, I'm going to do it. I know you're going to get it a lot better. And I know you do it through repetition, so I'm going to give you 10,000 of them, and you're going to get better at it, right? So I think the big difference between doing it in large scale and small scale is getting to know what works for each type of person or each type of learner, each type of chef. And with this kind of program, the mentor is going to be like directly in contact with that person all the time and see what works for them. So I think that's the biggie for me.
Great. And of course, we can learn a lot from you at large scale, how to scale things well. No?
Yes, yeah.
And speaking of scale, I'm thinking of your work, Gracian, and you've engaged over 60,000 in the Life Climate Smart Chefs project. Also for the European Football Association, you helped develop their sustainability guidelines. So that is speaking on huge scale. I'd be interested to know what you're seeing is going down to grassroots level from that.
So thank you, first of all. And everyone, I'm super happy to be here and to see young chefs right here before me. It's amazing. I worked in a culinary school before, and I always love to see the next generation. Speaking on your question, Flora, yeah, I think 60,000 is a huge number. It's a very impressive number. But what is within that 60,000, it's broken up into associations, it's broken up into smaller divisions of people that are working with small communities. Now, a very realistic number from that 60,000 that I can speak on personally is 164 chefs. 164 chefs I got to know on a very personal level over 3 years. We worked together on their individual communities, what they could do to speak to the people that were there, to be an actual direct influence on those people from each EU 27 country, which is a lot of cultures, it's a lot of cuisines, it's a lot of heritage that's preserved and that's spoken about. So I think that going down to a grassroots level, you really have to, not focus on the big picture. That's great, because within the 60,000, we had so many people that were doing the same thing that I was doing. But the 164 people, I got to see personally what they could do. And I also wanted to speak a little bit about this too. I think that influencing your communities, yes, you can do this in restaurants. You can do this in many other places as well, though. And I think that understanding, good for earth, good for body, sustainability initiatives, it's really nice also to dress it up in other ways. I wanted to use a quick anecdote. Some years ago, whenever we developed the European Football Association guidelines, we had guidelines that were in the stadium. People that loved football, they were seeing the guidelines in every single stadium for the Euro 2024 Cup. They were understanding what is being served, how was it decided that this would be served, why am I eating this, why is it good for me, why is it good for the earth, which is great, okay? Now, realistically, I understand that most people were probably so excited about the football, they were not really looking at the food. So I'm gonna go one step further with that. I saw these guidelines in front of me, because we'd been working on them, and I was in the States, okay? So we're not in Europe, now we're in the States. I have them in front of me, and I'm at a different Congress. I meet with a project manager from T.H. Chan Public School of Health of Harvard, and she starts telling me that they're developing cancer prevention guidelines on health. So I look at my guidelines, I look at hers, I say, they're basically the same thing. So to take it one step further, I called a chef, an Italian chef. We ended up creating an event called Eco Gusto, in which we talked to the researchers and the scientists and the students at Harvard using Italian food that fell under both guidelines. And we were able to say, this is good for the earth because of XYZ. And guess what? This regional cuisine that is being demonstrated here can also be cancer preventative. And that's what made people really interested in it, because using new words to suggest that sustainability, it's not just lower carbon and water footprints, it's not just, decreasing food waste. You have other aspects for different people that could be interesting. So to finish what I'm saying is that you have to be kind of open about how you can utilize chefs to directly influence their communities and the people around them, and to get people interested in food in a new light. So hopefully I answered that.
Thank you so much. It's super interesting, thank you. It's a new way of thinking about it, thinking outside the box, because we're hearing the same words again and again, no? So it's a way of connecting with people. And as chefs, I think you have a unique opportunity to do that, and you can really take that and be successful with it. This panel, I want to keep really short and make it a bit more interactive for you guys. So I have one last question for our panelists, and it's to think, if you're at the start of your career, what is something that you would like, maybe some of this capacity building or a type of opportunity, something that you think would have been helpful for you to take and run with?
Sure. As a young woman starting in this industry, I came right out of the Canadian Armed Forces. I was Army before kitchen, so I'm very to the letter. I can do things how they need to be done. I'm very focused. I went into kitchens not knowing if it was love, it was like. I knew I wanted to do something that was structured, and I went into kitchens, and I was the only, which some of you might be the only as well. You can fill in the blank of what the only is. The only neurodivergent, the only person of color, the only female, the only whatever. I was usually 2 out of 3 of them in any kitchen. And I had no mentor. I wasn't a part of anything. I just worked hard, put my head down, and did it. And I did it, and I did it, and I'd do the next person's job, and I'd do the person next to me. I'd learn every person's job in the kitchen so that I could move anywhere. So if someone called in sick, yeah, I can do that. And it wasn't to take their job, it's just because I had to I had to stay focused and keep moving. I had no idea where my life was going. I just knew I was going from, and I worked all fine dining. I did restaurants, hotels, catering, ski resort, golf course, you name it. I went through all the fun. And I had nobody to tell me where to go, what to do, how to navigate the system of kitchens. I didn't know what was out there. I didn't know how connected the food world was. I never used my resume after my first job. I use it at my first job and I use it at my last job. Every job I left from, I'm like, you know, I know a guy who knows a guy. You go there. Like, take her, she's good. Okay, so then I'd go work there, right? So I wish I had someone who gave me at least a pathway or a possibility or a vision that showed me, here's something you could be doing. Because I had no idea. I just kept working. I'm like, I got a job, just keep working, I got a job. I came from a family who had very little food, very little money, very little. I was the first one to graduate high school. Like, I was not from a lot. So by the time I got to, I was executive chef. I was running 2 golf courses, a seniors place. I had about 150 staff. I still had no mentor. I was just figuring shit out. I just made good food, and I just worked really hard, and people saw it. So working hard is great, but it didn't move me forward. It didn't give me any aha light. It didn't connect me. So then someone asked me to teach, and you don't need the whole life journey, but someone asked me to teach. I'm like, I'm not big in teaching. I cook for a living, right? And I went. Finally, they said, come, try, do, and I taught. And I met my mentor there, which she was a big part of World Chefs. And she's like, oh, you should come onto the board. I just went to one meeting. You should come on the board and be a secretary. I'm like, I'm a secretary. And the next fall, I was in South Africa on a World Chefs tour against hunger. And I was like, this is, oh my God, my heart is full. I can do things. Like, I see people and I can help and I can do food. Fuck, this is fabulous, right? So then I stayed on the board and I've been president and moved through all kinds of things within our own branch. But seeing the opportunities, and people talk about opportunities, like, what does that look like? Someone opening the door for you and saying, come on in. And that's what I wish I had. I had nobody doing that. So you have that here, and use it.
Thank you. Graciano, Sean.
Yeah, so just really quickly, my advice is to, no. I think it was lovely. But my response anyways is super short. So just look at the person that's sitting next to you. Look at the people that are sitting in front of you. Understand that a network is not a given. You have to work on it. So whenever I think back, I wish I would have, really strengthened my network at such a young age that it was still really strong. Now I have a great network now, but there's a lot of, catching up to it. You guys have an amazing network right here. Utilize it, work on it. Ask me for my email after this. We can stay and work together and understand how to collaborate in the future, especially in this program. Lean on it. That's all I'm gonna say on that.
So work and network, I like it.
Kind of fairly similar story to Shona. I mean, you can probably hear I'm actually not born in Switzerland. I'm actually born in England. I'm from the northeast of England, near the Scottish border originally. And I was joining my, we call it no man's land, Northumberland. And, there wasn't a great deal of, actually right now, it's actually a very beautiful part of the world. There's a lot of Roman artifacts and lots of old castles between Scotland and England and that kind of area. Beautiful coastline. But back in the 80s, when I was leaving school, it was actually quite a redundant area. Mostly like large parts of Wales, really. We had a lot of industry, which was then closed in the early 80s, and then there was a lot of depravity, and not a lot of jobs to go around. And as I left school in the late 80s, there wasn't a lot of work, and there was an opportunity to work in kitchens, and I'd already had an interest because I was working in a local hotel as a dishwasher as a kid, and I was at school weekends, and I was cooking at home, and I had a natural interest for it. I actually did home economics. I was the only boy in the class, I think, actually, at that time, which is quite ironic because you have difficulty getting, let's say, not difficulty, but there is definitely not an equilibrium in the gender in that industry, in terms of management positions, for sure not. But certainly when I was at school, there tended to be a lot of females in the home economics class, but they were, but I think they cancelled those in the UK soon after I'd studied them, which is a real shame. But you know, joining that industry was something I kind of wanted to do. And I remember my dad saying, "You want to be a what? A chef?" And we didn't have TV chefs a lot, you know, much on TV then. We didn't have all the social media. We didn't have influencers. So therefore, it was kind of an industry which you either were pushed into, or you had no other choice, so you had to do something like that. But I didn't see it like that. And I worked very hard, like all of you guys are, and everyone else has in this industry who's ever been anywhere, achieved anything. And yeah, then I took the plunge and went to London when I was 21. That was the last time I lived in my home, by the way, when I was 21. I never looked back. I like to go there on holiday, but I never look back in terms of in terms of the decisions you make. And I managed to find my mentor when I was in London. And at every opportunity, when I was not sure where to go the next avenue, I went to that mentor and asked them, "What do you think I should do?" And that person always had a very, very good idea for what I could do in the future. And my journey, because one of the perks of our industry is traveling, as you've probably worked out by being here, right? And I did a lot of traveling and working in different countries. Actually, I'm actually Swiss and British now, because I lived in Switzerland so long, over 20 years. But in terms of the opportunities, I would say search for a mentor. Search for someone that you trust. Search for someone that has your heart in their head as much as you have, who can help you, who can support you, who you can go to when you have questions. And this person will support you lifelong, because my mentor still supports me. And every now and again I see him, and we have a good chat about the old days. He's retired now. And yeah, he's always been there for me. So that's an important aspect of what we do. Everyone needs a friend, right? And we have the opportunity. So try and find your mentor, work to the advantages of our industry in terms of the opportunities it allows you to do, and go for it.
Thank you. So take notes. It's mentors, networking. That's what's coming through a lot, and that's really helpful. And I should mention we have another Young Chefs program mentor here, Rosalind. Thanks for both of you, for both of your work and commitment to it. So I see some sleepy faces, and we are nearly at the end of the day. So I'm going to ask you all to take out your phones. And here we should have a QR code, but it might, okay. So the QR code's not there, but maybe we can get some answers instead, if anyone's willing to be brave enough to give us some scenarios, okay? So first, we're gonna go through 3 different scenarios, and think about what would be the best thing to do in this situation. So food waste in a high volume kitchen. So imagine you're managing a high volume kitchen where food waste is consistently high. You want to reduce waste significantly, but you face time pressure, limited staff capacity, and the requirement to maintain speed of service. So where would you intervene first to create lasting impact?
Not anything?
No, but I have them here, so I'm gonna read them out. I'm prepared. Okay, so you've got 3 options. First is redesigning the menu. So you want to bring in byproducts and secondary cuts. So that's one option. Another is investing in staff training. And the third option is introducing preservation techniques. So maybe fermentation or something to deal with the waste. Which one do you think is the most effective in this scenario? Does anyone want to give us an opinion? Change the menu. Okay, anyone else agree? Show of hands for change the menu? Or stand up? Yeah. What about investing in staff training? Okay, we've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay. And introducing preservation techniques? 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, so balance, all right. Sean, I wanted to ask your opinion on this one, since your mentee is doing a lot on food waste, so maybe you've got a good idea.
Yeah. she is doing a lot actually, and her Manco is obviously in competitions, and she's done a lot of competitions herself and sees a lot of. Can I talk about the project a little bit? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I did a lot of competitions as well, and I see exactly where she's coming from. She was very happy about the fact that she did her competitions the way this, sorry, her project about the competitions, because I'm sure some of you are doing competitions too, right? And when you're doing competitions, whether it's cold aspect work or whether it's hot cooking, there is a lot of waste, and that's what people don't see. Actually, one of the competition categories that we don't produce waste, right? At the competition itself, what happens behind the scenes happens behind the scenes. We've also seen all kinds of tricks, right? And during the process of practicing, it's pretty obscene. So her project is about that, which I think is pretty cool. And I think, yeah, I think all the answers are actually relevant, if I'm being very honest. It's about in which order you prioritize them. But yeah, so I think everything is relevant. Nothing is irrelevant. Everything has a purpose. Everything has a reason. Everything has a relevance in some description.
Great, thank you. And I think I've seen that from the balance we got in answers coming out. Okay. All right, I have a second question for you all. This one's more related to food heritage and modern menus. So thinking about, okay, looking back to the past, but still we want to stay relevant. Oh, thank you. Okay, so traditional cuisine is often perceived by your consumers, your customers, as outdated or less appealing compared to modern dining trends. Okay, so how would you position your country's food heritage in your menu? And I know that there is also a new competition theme on food heritage, right? So that's exciting. So would you reinterpret traditional dishes using contemporary techniques, or highlight food heritage through storytelling and menu narratives? So thinking about how you're actually talking about the dish. Integrate heritage ingredients into modern formats. That's a bit like the first one, reinterpreting. Or preserve authenticity even if it limits scalability. So sticking very purely to the heritage. What are your thoughts on reinterpreting, integrating heritage ingredients, and using contemporary techniques? No? Anyone on that? One? Yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
There's like, so I'm doing my master's in gastronomy, and one of my professors is doing her PhD. She's writing a paper about how to actually preserve heritage when you're in a different country or if you're an immigrant. And I think it is very possible to still make food authentic, but also like, well, still authentic, but also marketable in wherever you are. Like, I recently read a paper about the sushi culture in Perth, and how actually, like, sushi is completely different from how it eventually developed in Perth. And I think it's really important to market our own heritage all over the world, because food is ultimately a form of soft diplomacy. And we've seen that recently with matcha, and I'm Filipino, and with ube as well, and with Korea recently, with Korean food and Japanese food, and it really, I think, we sometimes underestimate the power of food in terms of how the world sees our countries and how much leverage we can get in terms of power and influence in the world. So I think we need to be able to adjust, and not just, we need to be able to adjust to a market, right? That's why we have so many sponsors. Nestle doesn't just market itself into one market. It adjusts to every single country that it positions itself in. So I think it's our responsibility as chefs to ultimately become ambassadors of our own cultures. And
Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you. And I agree. I think it's something that we're realizing more and more. And we're seeing how food connects people, and how important it is actually to bring conversations up around food and identity. And it's really good to hear that you're doing this master's later. I want to ask you about it. Yeah, exactly. Gracian, I know you've worked with heritage, but also modern companies like, say, Barilla is looking at heritage, but also modern. innovation. Do you have any words on this? you'd
Yeah,
like to share?
yeah, absolutely. So in a lot of the projects that I work on that are related to sustainability, we also have chefs that are, working out of the EU 27 countries. So right now, we're developing a recipe book, one recipe per EU 27 countries. So 27 recipes, 27 chefs. And the idea is to use traditional recipes that reflect the culinary heritage, but also in a new modern light, so demonstrating the identity of the chef, which I think is very important. But I also want to say, it's extremely important to preserve heritage, but I also think it's very important to understand that, culinary arts and cooking and food, it's, a living, breathing idea, right? The biodiversity that you have in various countries is constantly changing. I've been talking to so many different people recently about invasive species. So rather than just sticking to traditional ingredients that have always been in the country, I think that chefs also need to preserve the culinary techniques, the heritage that they have, and also be open towards facing new ingredients that are there. So being inventive with that. That also helps the biodiversity of their area. So if you have invasive species, typically you want to monitor that by eating them, by promoting the consumption of them. So there needs to be a balance between that. So I didn't see many answers of what everyone thought here, but I'm sure that, finding that balance between having your modern interpretation of a traditional and the cultural heritage relevancy of a dish it's good to have that balance. Yeah. Thank you.
Interesting on invasive species.
Yes.
Yeah, we can have a conversation on it. I've heard of somebody doing their thesis project in Italy on nutria, they're called, these kind of very big beavers, and how to cook them, how to
To get rid of the
yeah.
pests.
Also with blue crab is a big one in Italy. Yeah. And Chiara Pavan is a chef that's doing a restaurant where she's got blue crab on the menu. I think you've been, Gracian. I haven't been yet, but it's one on the list.
Yeah.
So let's see, we've got one more scenario. We also have a couple of videos from the chefs, from the Young Chefs program to add as well. Hopefully they work. But let's go to the third one. So, okay, imagining you're a head chef or a kitchen manager who wants to create a more inclusive environment for women chefs in your team. Despite your intentions, you are navigating a workplace culture that has historically excluded women from senior roles with long hours, informal hierarchies, and limited mentorship pathways. So maybe, Shoni, you can give us some insights on this one.
Effective first step towards lasting change.
So we've got some examples here. If you like, I can even
Sure,
share them
let's
with
see.
you.
Okay, so our examples are, thank God I have progressives on. What is the most effective? Introduce structured mentorship so that there's, real pathways, so they know how to become a senior leader. Redesign kitchen scheduling and work conditions to reduce some of those barriers, like for people who have kids or families or flexible hours. Build a visible culture of recognition, ensuring that women chefs' contributions, techniques, and leadership are credited. So this is number 4, these are big answers, I'll come back to them, don't worry. Advocate beyond your own kitchen, using a platform to push for industry-wide standards on inclusion or equitable opportunity. So we have 1, we're gonna say, make sure there's mentorship or pathways. 2, we're gonna redesign sort of kitchen and have flexibility. 3, we're gonna say that we really, lift up and credit publicly the women things that they're doing. Or 4, we're gonna, I'm gonna get on my soapbox and make sure that everybody hears it, not just my kitchen, so people understand where I come from. So, who's in for number 1? We wanna say mentorship is gonna be the way to go. That's how I'm gonna get the women. Raise your hands, come on, play along a little. We got 2, fabulous. Okay, redesign scheduling and work conditions to reduce some of those structural barriers. Anyone? What would I do? So I am a female chef. as you can see. And I have a kitchen where I want to have some more women and make them feel sort of welcome in my kitchen. What am I going to do? What's going to be the first things I'm going to do to make sure that they feel welcome in the kitchen and they feel they can move up and have a place at the table? So are we redesigning the schedule and removing some of those barriers? That's not going to do anything? We don't feel that? It's because y'all don't have kids, neither do I. Build a visible culture of recognition so that we see women's contributions and techniques. Is any of this happening? Yeah, maybe. Maybe we lift up and say, they're doing a great job, we see you. Or I get on my soapbox and start saying, all the women should be recognized. Yeah, okay, thanks for that. So I'm going to say my answers are kind of none of these and all of these, right? I don't hear what I want to hear. Sorry, your answers are great on paper. But I've been in this role and I've done this stuff. And I know it's going to start way beyond, you can have your fun papers. It's going to start way beyond that. So when I put out a hire thing, and I'm going to have an ad, an electronic ad, my ad can't look like everyone else's. Because if you take an ad from 3 great restaurants, hotels, caterers you want to work for, they're going to look all the same. Which one's going to say, I understand you have a family, and that matters to me? Is that going to resonate with you? I understand that you might need weekends off, and we give rotating weekends off. That's going to be in my ad. I'm going to start before you even walk in my door and make sure there's a policy that there's no harassment, that there's no way that the boundaries won't be set clearly for what's acceptable in my kitchen. Because when you come in, if you don't play fair, this nice face, it's going to go the other way, right? So you need to set those things up way, way before so that when women come in, they see they're welcome, they know. I used to have on the front of my door, and this was when I first had one of my biggest kitchens. We had about 57 staff in our busiest times, which is not huge, but it's big enough. When you're writing a schedule without any AI, because it was way before this, it is a nightmare on paper. So I would have a bulletin board up on my door on the outside. If you needed something off, you put your name on there and you say it. You don't have to tell me why. If it's important to you, it's important to me. And I did not ever work in a situation like that. I did not ever have an opportunity like that. And I did not ever have any female leads in any kitchen I ever worked in. So I would say it would be your hiring practices, you have a policy in place, and it sounds like boring, terrible bullshit, but that you also talk to these people in your kitchen, the women in your kitchen, and show them, here's other people who are doing what you're doing. Take them off, take all your staff off premises and go somewhere else and see what other teams are doing. Show them great examples of how they can be. And then when they're ready to go, when they've been with you 3 years, put them with another amazing chef so that they continue to learn and you still have that connection to them and you stay a mentor. And I have young women, grown women that still call me and ask that I've talked to 20, 30 years ago that just want that assurance. Is this still my path? Is this still what I'm doing? Give them that. So I think that's sort of the female shout out that they need to have to feel comfortable in a kitchen.
Thank you. Thank you. It's super insightful and like instructive also. So I see the time. I just want to show 2 very short videos from the young chefs on their projects, and then open for questions. And we're also around after if you have any. So hopefully this works. Let's see. All right.
One of the pillars of the Young Chefs program is on capacity development, and we just had a master class on gender-responsive nutrition for chefs. From this, I was able to reflect on how this contributed to my perspective on inclusivity and leadership, and how women can take up space in a male-dominated industry. It also pleases me to share that 7 out of 10 chefs in the first cohort of Young Chefs program are women. As a chef, I have indeed been reflecting a lot on how women are historically excluded from senior roles, not only in the kitchen, but in the entire business landscape. If we want lasting change, we can't just rely on good intentions. We need structure. From the 4 choices in the given scenario, I personally think that the first one is the most effective step to bridge this gap, to introduce structured mentorship and sponsorship pathways. Where I work, it is a privilege a measurable goal to have 50% of management roles held by women by 2030. Statistics from 20 to 25 show women represent 42% of general management and 35% of senior leadership. We also develop young chefs through our whole person development and foundation acceleration program. With this program, we make sure women chefs are well represented and we train them through a 3-pillar approach: cross-training and exposure, industry certifications, and mentorship. With all these learnings and knowledge from the Young Chefs program and from my company, I intend to integrate all this into my project by using this platform to echo the voice of women and the role we play in creating a transparent and equitable system. Women chefs will not just be acknowledged, we will be empowered and equipped to lead. This is how we begin to reshape our kitchen culture, by pairing intention with action, and by making holistic development a visible, reliable part of our culture and tradition.
Sorry, I didn't introduce before. That was Safa Nesmeri Rodas, and she's from the Philippines, and she's one of the chefs on our program. And she's also doing some work with a women's program alongside of it. And then, because of time, I'm just going to go to the next video and show Mahalia Wilson, who's working with young people in schools on programs around food education.
Hi, and my name is Mahalia Wilson. I am a member of the Young Chef program representing Jamaica. The title of my community project is called Roots to Table, which is a school tour going to high schools and primary schools across Jamaica, having conversations with our young people about agricultural careers, food as it relates to oral health, and sustainable farming practices. Through my project, I learned that the most effective entry point is not only education, but cultural relevance, identity, and accessibility. Rather than speaking about sustainability in an environmental term only, Roots to Table connected to food and practices that are already a part of our Caribbean culture. An example of this is that Roots to Table encourages students to plant herbs such as lemongrass and mint for tea, showing that sustainable choices can tackle barriers of affordability, familiarity, all while providing healthier alternatives to sugar beverages. This way, our young people do not view sustainability as a sacrifice, but as something that is rooted in their own identity, their habits, and their traditions. We make this experience hands-on and social, as students participate in in-classroom workshops, school gardening activities, and take-home planter kits. Many students become excited when they can physically grow something themselves and document the process on social media. This creates a sense of ownership and pride over the work that they're doing. One challenge that the program faced was overcoming the perception that agriculture is only hard labor or that it is not relevant to our modern youth. Roots to Table addressed this by highlighting agriculture in STEM education. The program works with youth-focused organizations and relatable presenters who can encourage our students in an inspiring way rather than an instructional way. The aim of the project is to show that sustainable food system does not only begin on our farms. It begins in our school, in our home, and with the choices that we make every day.
So I really wanted to, of course, have them joining in this session and maybe have them live online. At the end, we couldn't manage, so we have these videos. But I hope that's given you some insight also into their work and maybe being inspiring for thinking about what kind of things that you can do as a chef and actually the influence you have and the opportunity also, especially with the network that you have at World Chefs. We've seen it's really great. And as Gracie-Ann mentioned, you know, look at your network around you. There's so much opportunity and build it and find your mentor. There's plenty here, I know. And yeah, just use those opportunities. I've put a QR code there to our national chapters. So depending where you're from, we've got them in about 70 countries now. So hopefully you've got one in your country if you want to get involved. And I'm really happy to stay here for a bit and chat with anyone who'd like to. But thanks to all our panelists for joining. Very much appreciated. And thank you all for coming at this very last session. Well done for the last few days.